एकं अक्षरं हृदि निरन्तरं भासते स्वयं लिख्यते कथम्। हृदयकुहरमध्ये केवलं ब्रह्ममात्रम् यहमहमिति साक्षात् आत्मरूपेण भाति। हृदि विषमनसा चिन्वता मुच्यता पवनचलनरोधा आत्मनिष्ठो भवन्। देहं मृण्मय जडात्मकम् अहं बुद्धिर्न तस्यास्त्यतो नाहं तत्तत भावशक्तिसमये सिद्धात्मसद्भावतः। ओहं भावयुतः कुतो विरतिः दृष्टात्मनिष्ठात्मना सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचल शिवः पूर्णो विभाति स्वयं। सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचल शिवः पूर्णो विभाति स्वयं। Namo Ramana. With Bhagavan's immense grace, we have been meditating on the verses of Anma bodham, Atma bodha. We have been relying on the Tamil translation of Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi. We find ourselves in the segment which is a description of Jnana Udayam, of how Ajnana goes and how Jnana shines by itself. This is the fifth segment in one sense. In another sense, from these verses, it is all Anubhava till verse 68. But even in Anubhava, some of the commentators have given some segmentation. The first 4 segments up to this segment we find in verses 41 through 46. We have covered from 41 to 45. We have to take up verse 46. The first 4 segments that we saw were verses 1 to 5, which was the introduction about who is eligible and how for the Krutopasaka, the jnana immediately shines like Meghapaye Amushavaniva. But for the many of us, the jnana sadhana is done. So, the jnana sadhana is in Dvaitam. That also vanishes like the Kataka Renuvat, like how the impurities, to remove the impurities in the water, how alum or some other powder is put, and that Kataka powder, that also is removed along with the impurities. Similarly, the feeling that we did sadhana also goes in the jnana anubhava. In fact, the rest of the work is an expansion of that verse. What is the jnana sadhana? So the first segment is about who is eligible, why jnana is important, how for some immediately jnana is shining, and how for some others sadhana is required. Then the second segment from 6 to 14 or so was about adhyasa, or how the world existence seems so real to us that objective attainments, objective possessions, the I and the mind seem so clear and experienceable as though it is real. How that adhyasa has come about. 6 to 14, 15 to 30, the third segment was about the jnana marga itself. How the panchakoshas are obstructing the Atma Swarupa, and how the panchakoshas removed, the Atma Swarupa is available. That was 15 to 30. 31 to 40 is the Nididhyasana shlokas. What is the difference between the Jnana Marga shlokas and the Nididhyasana shlokas? We saw that in the Jnana Marga description, it is as though the Guru is telling to another person. The Nididhyasana shlokas is for the student to meditate from first person. I am like this, I am like that. So that was in verses 31 to 40. 41 to 46 we saw is the commentary on the Jnanodayam. And we had seen that in 41 the Guru had instructed as to how in the first segment of this game of the Jnana Sadhana, the Triputi of knower, knowing, known is not present. In Atma, the knower, knowing, known is not present. That was 41. 42 is how the constant contemplation is like the rubbing of the two parts of that Agni. How the two planks, when rubbed against each other, the one of the planks is the Atma Swarupa ever existing, other is the Jivatma rubbing against it in sadhana. This creates the Jnana Agni, the spark. And what does the spark do? According to verse 42, it starts and it completely burns all the samit, all the Ajnana samit, all the wood or the ignorance which is present in us as conditionings, all those are burnt in the fire of the sadhana. And then the beautiful description of Arunodaya. How in that Jnana Agni, from personal effort, we saw the Supreme itself starts rising. When we take one step, the Supreme takes a million steps. Million according to us, one according to the Supreme. And even before the rising of the sun, how the Arunodayam, it removes the darkness. The sadhana and the jnanodayam, they remove the ignorance. And then once the ignorance is removed, the sun of Atma Swarupa shines by itself. That was 43. 44, when the ignorance is removed, the Atma shines by itself. We realize that Atma alone was ever present. It is like the Kantaha Bharana, that as though it was lost and as though it was regained, but it was never lost and it was never attained by sadhana. It is ever attained. So that is the running commentary. The Guru says, you realize the Katakarenuvat. The Katakarenuvat is, you had done sadhana, you felt you were bound, but then now, once the Arunodayam has come, and when the Jnanodayam is there, then the Jnana doesn't feel that it was ever having ignorance, or then it did all those sadhanas to come out of it. So that was 44th verse, which took us through that running commentary as to how the Jnana is experienced as never having been bound, never having made any effort. This is my ever-present nature. Ignorantia juris non excused. Just because you don't know doesn't mean that was not your nature. So that was verse 44 and 45, how individuality is a mere superimposition in the Brahman, that I was considering myself to be a jiva. Lakshman Sharma ji says that even in the Ajnana Kala, the experience of the seer and the multiple objects of the seen world, even this is perceived only by the light of the Brahman. But that light of Brahman, out of ignorance, is considered to be so miniaturized, so reduced to I am this body. That is why the sadhana is who am I? The reduction or the shrinking of that whole into this almost non-existent, the worthless individuality, that is what is the seer who sees the world. Therefore, the individuality is like the man seen in a post. In the evening you come and near your house you have forgotten that they are constructing some new building and they have put that post for the iron bending. And you come in the dusk and you see, hey, who is this standing in front of my house? Then you go nearer, the street lamp is clearer, then you see the man was never there. Your suspicion that somebody is eyeing your home is not true, it vanishes. So how that man was superimposed on that post, all this time we have merely superimposed the individuality in the Brahman. Up to this, the running commentary we have seen. Now to the verse in question today. This is the last verse in the Jnanodayam segment. The next segment will be the Jnani, 47 onwards to 53 will be how the Jnani merges in the Brahman. But let us complete this segment, the description of Jnanodayam. The final slokam, the final verse is Tattva Swarupanubhudiyal Tanudi Uttama Jnanam Udaneyam Vittaya Nan Enadajnana Nasippikum Digbramai Bhanu Udayatena Vepa Tattva തത്വസ്വരൂപാനുഭൂതിയാൽ താൻ ഉദി ഉത്തമ ജ്ഞാനം ഉടനേയം മിഥ്യയാ நான் எனதஞானம் நசிப்பிக்கும் திக்பிரமை பாலுதயத்தெனவே பார். The last verse of this segment, how the ajnana is removed and how jnana is experienced as it is ever present, as though it is never it had occurred. The Ajata Siddhanta is directly experienced, that nothing has born out of this self-luminous self. What is actually completely removed? Completely removed is the root of the problem discovered and suggested by all the religions. All the religions of the world are accepted on this. They have agreed on this, that the root of the human problem is the ahankara and mamakara. That is why Bhagavan would say, whenever someone would pose the conflicts in religions or conflicts within the divisions of Hinduism itself, Bhagavan would say, why do you go for the differences? They have all agreed on one thing. They have all the religions, all the divisions in Hinduism, whether Advaita, Visishta Advaita or Dvaita, all are agreed that the root problem of the human condition is the feeling of, I am this person belonging to this, I expect and I am expected of by this group, and this group and these properties and this knowledge, these are all mine. The rest I don't know. This ahankara and mamakara is the root of the human misery. This is agreed by all religions. All religions propose that we surrender the ahankara and mamakara to the one power, which each of them call in different names. Bhagavan in Ashtakam would say, Irundulir unaividu tadutidal deivam, iruttinai vilakkedu tadutidale kaan, Irundulir unai arivuruttidற்கென்றே irundhanai madantorum vida vida uruvai. You are the existence consciousness, O Arunachala. You are indeed known to us as Arunachala. But who are you in essence? You are the existence consciousness. You are present in all religions, in different forms, in different names. But you are in essence only the Irundu Olir, ever existent, ever luminous. The Sat Chit is what you are, O Arunachala. So in that Sat Chit, the division as the seer seen, the division as I and mine is gone. The I and mine, the ultimate way to look at it is the seer and the seen. So, Tattva Surupanu Budhiya Tan Budi Uttama Jnanam. It is a self-luminous Swayam Prakasha Jyoti Atma. What happens in that? As soon as that arises, the ignorance having been destroyed, by what? By your jnana sadhana, by the arunodayam. Because of the jnana sadhana, the arunodayam is there. In the arunodayam, the ignorance is destroyed. In that tanudi jnanodayam, in that self-luminous jnana, what happens? Mithayam nan enadu. The root of all miseries of separate existence from God, which arises as attachment to a set of upadhis, attachment to a set of, let us say, specs. We have 5 different kinds of spectacles through which we see the objective space. The moment we wear a biological suit called the sensory body, the objective space becomes the sensory world. And all the koshas are revealing different worlds to us. So, as soon as the Jnanodayam is there, where this root division of seer seen is gone, the fundamental misery proclaimed by all the religions is completely uprooted. Nan enadu mittayam, nan enadu ajnanam. Nasipikkum Digbramai Banu Udayatyanave Par. Digbramai, you have gone to a completely new place and it is pitch dark. These are not days of mobiles and direction showing wristwatches. So, in those days, where the example was set by Adi Shankara, if they go to a new place and when it is beyond the dusk, the person doesn't know which is in what direction. Then, as soon as the sun arises, he knows that is east. And as soon as east is known, he knows the rest of the directions. I am facing east, the right is south, left is north, and behind me is west. So, as soon as the southeast, southwest are also known, so as soon as, see how beautifully he has selected the drishtantam, the example, because when we take secular ignorance, somebody doesn't know stitching, then the knowledge of stitching and the practice of stitching will remove that ignorance. When somebody doesn't know rocket science, then that ignorance will be removed by studying and learning from an expert of rocket science. But that learning will remove only the ignorance of rocket science. Will it remove all other ignorance? But then there is something new mentioned here, that the Jnanodayam, it removes the entire I and mind. The whole area of ignorance is uprooted and thrown away. Now, what is the example that someone can take this? Because in secular area, the secular knowledge removes only a part. But the example given by the Acharya is how the Digbramai, how the ignorance about the directions is removed as soon as the Suryodayam is there. Because with connection with Suryodayam, all the directions gets fixed. Similarly, with the Jnanodayam, one completely understands that this was a false play. All this, that I and my family should be somehow saved. My group alone, me, first of all, I alone, then my group alone should be treated better. But then once we understand that all of us are jivas, then our approach to life becomes different. Whether your daughter asks a miserable question or somebody unrelated to you asks a miserable question, the rule is universal. The rule is that you have to get rid of the I and mind. The sadhanas in Bhakti Marga, Karma Marga, Raja Yoga, and Jnana Marga, whichever is suited to her. It may be your daughter, but what is the root cause of misery? It is not lack of money, it is not lack of education, it is not lack of new friendships. It is the I and mind that has to be uprooted. So far as I and mind is there, in some other form you would have transformed the problem, but you would not have eliminated it. That is why all religions are agreed on this. And the Jnanodayam completely removes this. When that Jiva Bhava goes, what is the nature of Jiva Bhava? I and mind. When the Jiva Bhava goes, there is liberation. There is the absolute identity with the freedom of the self. That is this verse and the beauty of the Drishtantam also of Digbramai. going as soon as the sun arises. With that, we end or come to the completion of that segment of the running commentary by the Acharya on how the sadhaka, the sadhana, slowly from individual creation of the sparks, what happens to that Parabrahman? It rises. You take one step, it takes million steps. There is Arunodayam. In that Arunodayam, where is Ajnana? It is all washed off. Like Hercules turning that river into this Aegean stables, the ignorance is just washed off. What happens when the ignorance is washed off? The knower knowing known goes. The complete removal of I and mind is there, and the anubhava of jnana is like kanthabharanam, that there is only the I. There is no thought about having slipped into ignorance and having come out of it. We move on to the next segment, verses 47 to 53, which deal with how the jnani, who is the jnani, the Bhranti Purushan, the individual seen in the pose is gone. But for expression, something should be used, no? So how the jnani merges in the Brahman. That is the segment 47 to 53. We begin that with Nandrutanai Arivijnaniyam Yogiyum Onrum Elam Tannil Uruvadai Ondrana Tanellam Ay Uladai Tanyana Kanninar Tan Kanban Endre Ari Nandru Tanai Arivijnaniyam Yogiyum Onrum Elam Tannil Uruvadai Ondrana Tanellam Ay Uladai Tanyana Kanninal Tan Kanbanendredari. So the jnani, how he mingles and merges. Bhagavan says in Ulladu Narpadu that one has to merge in the self and be one with it. But here the Acharya is going to give us some indications as to how that merger, the oneness, is taking place. Nandrutane Hari Vijnaniyam Yogiyum. The one who now knows himself thoroughly, knows his self thoroughly. In Atma-vicharam, we begin with the smell that the dog has of its master. Where in Aksharamadammalai, Bhagavan says, Yamaliyil Keda Nanen Urudiyai Nadinin Uruven Arunachala. Am I worse than a dog? The dog can, when left far away, can hold the smell. What is that smell? No, we can't tell. How those migratory birds, they come thousands of kilometers over the Himalayas, from Siberia down to Vedanta. Now quantum physics is trying to understand a little bit of that. That really for us, this is 10,000 kilometers. But for the birds, there is the 10,000 kilometers is not there. They have only the identity with the object through some connection in the mind. They have only that singular thought, and somehow, indescribably, they head directly towards that. Now, how that distance gets shrunk in the brain of the Siberian cranes, we are not able to decipher. But this time and this space is not there in that perception of that bird. Something God has given better than human beings. where they are able to come and track singularly there. Similarly, in dogs, in our own house, this has taken place, that when we were shifting from Tiruchi to Chennai, somehow, how that event came about, I can't place it. But that dog was left some distance away, and we were to take the journey the next day. And the dog was left some kilometers away by the truck driver with whom our materials was going. It was left probably at 10 p.m. At 4 a.m., it has come back after having walked 6 hours. It has come back and it was scratching the door. We, of course, took it, and the smell, what I want to say is that the smell of the dog is something we don't know. It is not this smell. In some way, it is connected with the master, and it is able to perceive that and go. Similarly, inside each one of us, Nan irikkiren, that we exist. None of us need the support of others, great beings, divine beings, or even our own thoughts, our own body, our own breath. These supports are not required to know that we exist. That is a direct perception. Our very existence is the sakshi for the ulla unarvu. The ulla iruppu is the sakshi, is the witness for the ulla unarvu. We directly know it. Nobody can take this away from us. Nobody needs to give this. But unfortunately, it's a shrunken, it's a reduced ulla unarvu. Bhagavan says, hold that. That ulla unarvu is this fragrance, is the smell of the Supreme Being. Whenever a thought comes and says, hey, hold me, I am giving you value. Sure, tell it. You are not giving me value. I exist independently. For whom is this thought? With or without you, I am there. With or without emotion, I am there. With or without senses, I am there. With or without world, I am there. So therefore, I am, which is directly perceived, independent of all objects, is the Brahmajnana. And that way, when someone knows himself, there is him, there is, when the self knows itself, Nandru Tanayari Vijnaniyam Yogiyam. He is a Mahayogi. Because all the margas are fulfilled in that jnana. To that Mahayogi, Undrum Elam Tannil Uruvadai. In that perception of the self, the whole objective world has Undrum, has merged, has mingled and merged and joined and combined. Time and space have all joined, and now they are inside me as me. They are all inside me. All the objective things, they have all come inside, and now they are inside me. The Upamanam is how this Akka would tell and share with me when, right from the beginning of our knowing each other, she would say how the dream experience is a beautiful example of understanding Advaita. That in the dream, you had so many things. You had an individual, you had experiences, you had other people, you had all the properties possible. But the moment you woke up, what happened? All that is reduced to your mind. One room, all those things, whatever you saw, actually are nothing but your mind, isn't it? In the same way, Tannai Ari Ajnani, he understands all this stuff is only me. Ondrum Elam Tannil Uruvade. First, they don't go to is all me. That comes in the next verse. It says, they are all inside me. All these are inside me. Ondrana Tanelam Ayumuladai. Therefore, now that everything is mingled into me, I am only present as everything. Somebody has 5 crores, somebody has 600 crores. We feel this person is better. Oh, we feel so. That person has 20 employees. We talk all through day as how that person is greater, and all our conversation has great respect for that and great respect, little bit less respect for 6 crores, and nothing for the one who is sitting in the road. But then in Atma Jnana, it's not that the Mamakara is little bit or it is that thou art everything. That Jnani knows that he is everything, there is nothing to get. And this is what Bhagavan says to Nagalakshmi Amma, the mother of Ganeshananna and his co-siblings, T.N. Venkatraman Mama's better half. When she comes to the ashram first, we have that incident, and many times we have meditated on that incident. How she says that the sari looks good, two devotees are coming, and she just remarks, Pattu Pudavai Nalla Irke, or something like that. And promptly what they do, they go to Chennai and send a parcel in her name with one or two saris in that. And we know that all parcels will come to Bhagavan when it is addressed to Ramanashram. And he calls the youngster, the young lady, you can see her, 16-year-old, 15-year-old perhaps, coming in front of Bhagavan, the Mahayogi, standing there in all reverence. And Bhagavan says, the sari that you saw and all other things are already inside you. And she says, no, Bhagavan, I did not covet the sari. I did not desire the possession of the sari. I just said that it is beautiful. It is looking very good. Then Bhagavan repeats the same thing. Something to the effect that the beauty, not only of the sari, all beauty is inside you as the Atma Swarupa. And she holds that. Ganeshanana used to tell us, she was a jnani since the Upadesham has come from the Brahma Swarupa itself. Since it has come with the Prana Shakti of the Moolam, it has gone deep. And she never forgot that. She never asked for anything after that, Ganeshanana would say. That everything we covet, everything we seek is already inside us. As the Jnana Swarupa. Ondranadellam Tane Ellamai Ulladai. Tan Jnanakkannina Tan Kandu. What is this Jnanakkan? When one is identified with this Purana and has completely erased the I am the body idea. When the Kantabharanam is clearly there, that I am this Purana, I. What has this Purana done? This Purana is Akhanda. It is Swayam Prakasha. All worldly objects, worldly knowledge is of knower, knowing, known. Experiencer, experience, and experienced. The triads collapse in self-attention. When it collapses in self-attention, there is the jnana, one abiding in Spurana, knows it is not the Adhipati of 6 crores or 600 crores. He is everything. There is no he or she about it. That one has merged into Bhagavan, who is everything. Let us put it like that. To appear in expression, there can appear an element of egoism in it. Because expression itself is in the area of ego. So we can put it in both ways, active and passive. That one directly realizes that one is everything. There is no need for anything outside. Not only that, you can put it that as Kohan used to say, I am now one with Guru Ramana. Guru Ramana is everything. Once one is merged in Spurana, one is one with Guru Ramana. Kohan would say, when Ganeshanana would ask him, why is your mind having so much dementia? You are in such delirium, you are saying such nonsense. If this is your case, what happens to all of us? Then he cuts through the delirium, he cuts through the demented mind, and he says, in old age, the body and the brain will start losing their ability to be coherent. But I am not the body, I am not the brain, I am the pure one who is one with Guru Ramana, says, and again he starts incoherently uttering something, least bothered about whether the brain is coherently acting or not. The jnani, having attained everything, he knows that through his jnana kan, jnana chakshu is to be one with this purana is the jnana chakshu. And that spurana has removed all the I am the body identity. So the ignorance is completely gone. The arunodayam, jnanodayam is here. And one is oneself, the jnana surya, the jnana bhanu, where one is indeed everything. What can one desire there? One is already everything. In that jnanam, the verse says, Tan jnana kanninal taan kaanman endre adi. Ondrum, all the objects, they all join together and they are present inside me. Example, how the waking state allows one to understand that the entire dream and all its object, the ahankara, mamakara in the dream is all reduced to your consciousness, is reduced to your mind. Similarly, in Jnanodayam, in the self-luminous self, the entire creation is absorbed into the spurana. Ondrum, all those, how the dream, it merged into the waker. Similarly, this whole creation merges into this Purana. And what is that Purana? Now that one who is merged is everything. Like Nagalakshmi Amma, she understands when Ganeshananda much later, he says one of the day she used to serve the Ramana devotees. His father would have come and having worked so hard, would be sleeping. Amma would be up late in the night. He has done a Girivalam, and in the Girivalam, he has had darshana of Arunachala as the endless column of light, which, if I may not be off mark, which was the darshan given to Brahma and Vishnu. That darshan given as the Akanta Jyoti, which is the Adi and Antya was not known, the same darshana Ganeshana has in Girivalam. He goes and he knows Amma will be up, immediately goes to kitchen, Appa will be sleeping, not to disturb him, goes inside the kitchen and tells Amma, Amma, you know what happened today? Near Adiyannamale or some other place, I had this darshan, he says. That Arunachala gave me this darshan as the Akanda Jyoti Swarupa. And Ganeshananda used to narrate, my mother said, so what? The response from Nagalakshmi Amma, who said the saris are beautiful and got the Upadesham from Bhagavan probably 50, 60 years before. She says, so what? What? I have seen the same darshan, the Akanda Jyoti Swarupa of Arunachala I have seen. So what? How can the seen be the truth? Has Bhagavan not asked you to absorb all the seen in the ever-present seer? Go and inquire, for whom is this light? Otherwise, tomorrow you will claim with others, I saw this great light. Your friends will all praise you, and you will go and be in the false seventh heaven. And all the detractors will make some snide remarks behind you and in front of you, which will hurt you. That is all that is going to happen. Don't hold on to this. That is you. That Akanda Jyoti is the self, is the Spurana. So ask. The same enquiry is made by Parvati Amma, says Bhagavan. She also, in her tapas in Tiruvannamalai, she sees the light in front of her. The Akanda Jyoti is seen. But then she inquires, Bhagavan says, if I can see it, then it is contained within the limits of my perception. Therefore, that cannot be the absolute. So I should inquire, who is perceiving this Jyoti? It is me who is perceiving. Who am I? That Jyoti, which is the whole creation, now merges into the Atma of Parvati Amma. And that is what Nagalakshmi Amma asks of Ganeshananda. That is what Bhagavan asks of us. So, for just 3 minutes till 8 o'clock, there is 13 minutes time. Let us do Atma Vicharam, and then we will await Aka's discussion. Ujjwalji, can you set up the time for us? We will put in Atma Vicharam, where the meaning of these verses are directly carried out with Bhagavan's grace. Let us sit in self-inquiry.
Sri Ramanaya.
Namo Ramana. Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana. Prostrations to Ramana, shining as a self in all beings. By the immense grace of the self manifest as Ramana, in this part of the satsang, we are looking again at what has been revealed to us through the satsang. That is to say, we are doing manana on the revelations that have come to us during the satsang. And these manana, the revelations of the satsang are on Anma bodham, the work of Bhagavan, which is a Tamil translation of Adi Shankara's works. And here in these verses which we have meditated on today, we are looking at the nature of the jnana, which is all enveloping. Nandakumar said, what a beautiful example has been given by Adi Shankara, the example of the rising of the sun. When the sunlight comes, then all confusion about directions are destroyed at the same time. At the same time, all confusions about the light are destroyed at the same time. When jnana arises, all confusions pertaining to duality are removed at the same time. That's why Bhagavan says, Tan marganam sarva jayaya margaha. To get back to the self, to self-enquiry is victory over everything. In Ramana Gita, he says it is sarva klesha nivritti. It is the destruction of all sorrow, all problems, everything, any anxiety, any difficulty, anything we may think about is all brought to null by the rise of jnana, by the awareness of the self, by establishing oneself, by getting into the self and remaining absorbed in the self. Every difficulty is destroyed. Every problem goes away. In Ekanva Panchakam, Bhagavan says again, he says that alone is the truth. It engulfs everything. Why do we say it engulfs everything? Actually, when Bhagavan had the experience as a boy of 16, when he faced death and when he overcame death, when he understood through the self-enquiry, when he became established in the self in a flash, because he could see that the body is dead and gone and it would be burnt and reduced to ashes. All this came to him as the example. Bhagavan gives the example of music. He says, all other activities were continuing for me like other notes come in music. He says there is one Shruti note in music. Now that Shruti note is there, all other notes may come and go. All other experiences may come and go. But the Shruti is inclusive of all other notes. Every note rises from the Shruti. It remains established in the Shruti and it merges into the Shruti. Another thought, another experience may arise. Similarly, for us, if and when we become established in the self, all other actions will be included or pervaded by the self. whenever one is in activity, whenever one is moving around in the world. See, we have seen that Bhagavan lived in that state for 54 years. After that, Jivan Mukti. And he says there was no change in his state. So always he is establishing that. So in Ekanma Panchakam, Bhagavan says, Tannul Tanu Virka Tana Chada Udalan Tannul Irpada Tanun Mannavan. Everything is in the self. But we say the self is in us. We think self is inside the body. I am inside this body. We think. சித்திரத்தின் உள்ளுளத சித்திரத்துக்கு ஆதாரவஸ்திரம் என்று எண்ணுவோம். So that which is inside the movie, he thinks that is the adhara, that is the basis. But everything is contained in that. In that, everything is played on that screen. Similarly, Bhagavan says that it will be known. Everything is enveloped by the self. So he also says this in Ramana Gita. He says, then, just as now, being the body, being this individual appears very natural to us. We think, oh, I am Sharda, I think so, I think I am Sharda. This is very natural to me. I don't have to remember that I am Sharda. If I see some other person, I may not remember who he or she is. But I don't forget that I am Sharda. What if a person is drunk and forgets that, he is that particular name? Even then, he doesn't forget that he is existing as some entity. He may say, what is my name? Which is my address? Where do I have to go? I don't remember. But he still feels a sense of identity with his body, which makes him say, I have forgotten my name. I have forgotten my address. So that body identity is very, very natural to us. Bhagavan says in Ramana Gita, the awareness of the self would be as natural as the body awareness is to the ignorant one. It becomes so natural, says Bhagavan. That is, it is all pervading. And of course, this we say it is all pervading when we are referring to the activity of the jnani. These examples are given by Bhagavan. Once he has explained that these examples are given from the perspective of the onlooker. Because when I see Bhagavan, I see Bhagavan is acting. I see Bhagavan is talking to people. I see that the jnani, the Jivan Mukta, is acting in the world just as naturally or even better than anyone else. So what is the difference? When I ask such a question, then Bhagavan says, he has said in Ulladu Narpadu, that for the jnani also the world exists. For the jnani also the body exists. But they are pervaded by the self. The self includes all this. Everything is included in the self. We can say that when the sun rises, we know that it is the east because of a particular apparent movement of the sun. But if one is in the North Pole or the South Pole during 6 months of sunlight, then where is east and where is west and where is south and where is north? Again, directions are lost. In darkness also directions are lost. In the fullness of light, where there is no rising or setting, there also this everything, all these separations are lost. So the sense of everything being the self, Everything is pervaded by the self, or everything is included in the self. The self alone is all pervading. This clarity that comes to us is still within the realm of the duality, or when one functions in the world. This is not from the perspective of the jnana. From the perspective of the jnana, Bhagavan would simply say that, see, there is a transistor radio, you hear the voice speaking, but is there anyone sitting inside the transistor radio? Nobody is sitting inside the transistor radio. There is no entity at all. Even to say everything is this or everything is not this. But all this Bhagavan tells out of great compassion. That natural compassion of the Jnani makes the expressions come out in such a way that we can understand and move towards that jnana. So for us, it is an understanding that everything is only the self. Until we recognize this as our own anubhava, Bhagavan says, okay, you accept there is a division between the thoughts and the thinker, and you turn your attention towards the thinker and you ask, who is this I? Who is this I? When you start asking, then since the division has already been obliterated. See, when we turn our attentions from the thoughts to the thinker, what happens to the thoughts? They disappear. When thoughts disappear, then can the thinker exist? The division between thoughts and thinker also will disappear, and the self will reveal itself by its natural and spontaneous grace. This is what Bhagavan is reinforcing to us through these beautiful verses, and which are brought to us so simply by Nandakumar ji, highlighting the fact again and again that this experience alone exists. The self alone exists. That alone is worthwhile. See, the beautiful examples which he gave, the story of Nagalakshmi Amma, which comes, as he said, which features often in our manana, that everything is included in it. That when that is experienced, where is the need to search for anything? Where would anything else arise to search for anything? And any other experience before that, however magnificent, should be crossed. That is the other story which was given to us today, the incident where Nagalakshmi Amma told Ganesh and Anna, even if you saw the great light, the all-enveloping light. See, that light is all-enveloping. It has no beginning, no end. But if you remain as a seer of that light, then go further. And it is said that in the talks, Bhagavan has narrated how Parvati Devi also had that experience of the all-enveloping light, of the surpassing light. And then she asked herself, okay, if I am seeing this light, then which is this I which is able to see this all-enveloping light? Therefore, the all-enveloping light is also included in this I. It must be vaster than that light in order to be able to see it. Who is this I? That is the magnificence of the I, which is brought home to us through this verse, in the great grace of Bhagavan. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramana.
Namo Ramana Kala. Thank you so much, Akka. Namo Ramana to all.
Namo Ramana.